Hey guys, how are you all doing? I hope you're all doing really well. I have a couple of announcements. The Cozy Co-working sessions are back. You can sign up to work with me via my newsletter. I send out the Zoom links on my newsletter. I will be releasing a free episode of Going Places once a month, the first of every month. And you should subscribe to the podcast. And I want to say a huge thank you to my patrons as well for supporting me so that I can make these kinds of videos, and they inspire me. They are the curators to all the content that I put out, especially surrounding creativity and videos on here. So join my Patreon if you want to know more. I guess this is quite high. Is this quite high? Join my Patreon if you want to know more about creativity and things I know about running a creative business. Today, I'm going to be sharing the process of my new print social t-shirt. It's Earth Day, and so Print Social asked me to create a t-shirt for them. They will be a limited amount. The campaign will be running until the 22nd of May. So if you want one, get yours, because I won't be putting this design anywhere else. And I feel like this is the best design I've ever made. And I'm really, really, really proud of this. I put a lot of thought and a lot of effort, and I'm going to be sharing the process to how it came to be. So yeah, let's just dive right in. So the first things first is they asked me to do the t-shirt for Earth Day. So I like to start by thinking, which usually is me going on a walk, me staring at a wall, just thinking, what can I do? And the first thought I had was my niece, who was born on Earth Day last year. And I thought maybe I could do something to do with her beautiful name. Niece is called Gaia, which means goddess of the earth. And so that kind of led me to think about Greek mythology. Okay, so I made a vision board, print social t-shirt, Earth Day. And I kind of started like collecting images on kind of Greek mythology. I think I typed in Gaia and like goddess of the earth. And I kind of was inspired by this kind of imagery that was very Greek mythology and mystic, and like about goddesses. And yeah, that super inspired me. So I started to think like of circles and symmetry, but also like really loved loud and bold illustration is kind of where I pin all that's like my one border that I use. So there'll be stuff in here that I was like looking at. I really liked, just symmetry. What was really grabbing my attention at the time? I think I looked at something like this, and I think it's really important as well for me to try and stay away from too much of the research. So I try and keep it to a real minimum, but I wanted to look at like kind of Greek mythology images. And then I always cut it short, because sometimes I feel like if I look at too much stuff, I actually have a tattoo like this. If I look at too much stuff, I can feel overwhelmed and not good enough. So I've learned over the years to just really keep things to a minimum. And then I wanted to look at some t-shirts to think like, okay, how can I use the space of a t-shirt? I know how to make a design for a t-shirt, but I thought, let's have a little look and see what's out there. But yeah, keeping things to a minimum, and then straight away going in with the creation. So the first thing I do is I start sketching on the iPad, and I really have enjoyed working this way. I because I feel like it's the closest to paper that I have, and I love being able to share time lapses. So I kind of thought it's been a while since I did something like I did when I made something for Shadow, and that really inspired me as well. I think being inspired by your own work can sound really egotistical, but I really feel like that was a really successful design. And I think you have to think about that something's going to be on a t-shirt, and it has to be wearable. And I think those really influence projects. Like, where's it going, I think really influences my art. I also work in Illustrator, and I know that that's not the best way to draw, but it was just the software as a designer that I was very, very comfortable using, and that it just was very natural for me to draw that way. But I wouldn't recommend starting to draw in Illustrator because it's really difficult, and I don't think it comes naturally to the way that you naturally draw. But for me, as I always created digital things and digital vectors and logos and stuff, it was just very easy for me to create what I wanted to create. And it also is great because working in vectors means that you know that no matter what size it is, you can know that it's going to work well. It's going to print good. It will print good. Technical speak. So yeah, I think I really struggled, I think, in the clothes. Like, I'm not a very fashionable person. I literally live in sweats or dresses. I like my style, but I feel like I wanted these characters to be really cool and style. I think in my illustrations I don't usually pay attention to clothes, and I think this was the first time that I really did. So for each character, I also wanted them to represent almost like a different style, almost like the Spice Girls and like any pop band that is it's very like people are within their own styles, and I really wanted that to shine through these characters. And I really wanted each character to really be individual and to be very unique from the other, and to like almost be the opposite of the other characters in the illustration. The water character to be cool. I wanted the cloud character to be free, almost like hippie, maybe in some sort of like hippie clothing from the 60s. I wanted the stars to be cute, and I wanted the fire to be fierce. And that was, I think, some notes that I made on the iPad. I also think that, yeah, I guess I just wanted the clothes to really represent the personality, and the personality to be connected to almost like the superpower, or if we're talking goddesses, like the thing that it represents. I wanted those to be really interwoven into the personality, like the character is the thing. So we're going on to colors now. I really struggled with colors. At first I was thinking like some sort of black and white monotone thing, but I also did play around with colors and sent them to Print Social to see what they thought. They really wanted me to go with colors, so I kind of went deeper into that. Mistake I made was when I imported the file, I didn't know that black and white was going to be included as a color. So I was a bit like, because sometimes they print, this is why you have to make sure that you're reading all the small print and stuff. Sometimes white is printed on, and sometimes white is seen as like it's just not, especially on a white t-shirt, seen as not being printed. So it is still white, if that makes sense. So really important to read up on things like that, or just upload a bit earlier, because when I did that, I realized on the day that I had to do some quick changes and figure out another color palette. And I think the color palette is always, I think, if it's a decision I have to make, it's always the hardest decision. For me, I think it's my weakest point. And I also think that sometimes sticking to my own palette can be a safety thing, but then I go back and forth between, but should I have a color palette so that people know me for specific colors? I don't know. I think color for me I'm always searching to feel good when it comes to picking a color palette. I kind of went back in the morning. I realized when I had literally the deadline. So, this happens. It's all part of the creative process. Like, things go wrong when you least expect it. And also really important to read the brief, because that's happened to me before where I've come to deadline and I missed something in the brief or something. So lesson learned. And then that was it pretty much. I went with the pink and black and white. I feel like, I don't know, it just really worked, and it really made sense. And I feel like going with those 3 colors, I was allowed to do 3 or 4 for the kind of otherwise I would have to price a t-shirt more than I think would have been ideal for me. So yeah, I'm really happy with the design. And I think the next thing was to make some assets for socials. So I kind of used elements of the design to create those. And yeah, that's it really. That is how I made it. I feel like this is a long process. Like, this screen recording happened over quite a few days. So it's easy to say something in 10 minutes, but it was actually really difficult. And I think the hardest thing in this process was definitely the colors. But you know, that's my weakness, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. I wear my weaknesses on my sleeve. But I feel like we got there. You know, we got there. I feel like it just takes some work. And my favorite thing as well is to like send the design out to friends and see what they think. Especially when I'm like deciding between one color palette and another. So that was very helpful. But yeah, I love this t-shirt. Please let me know what you think. What do you think of this design? I feel like when I spend longer on a project, it's my favorite way of working. And unfortunately, when clients have tight deadlines, or when personal work has tight deadlines, I feel like I'm not able to make my best work. But I also think that there is value in having quick deadlines, because it means I'm not overthinking. But let me know what your favorite way to work is, because sometimes the first idea that comes to my head is the best one, and sometimes it isn't. You know, this is super fun to make. Let me know what you think of the t-shirt, and I will see you in the next video.